I'm Steve Wells.
And I'm Jeffrey Feldberg. Welcome to the Sell My Business podcast.
This podcast is brought to you by the Deep Wealth Experience. When it comes to your liquidity event or exit, do you know how to maximize the value of your business? You have one chance to get it right, and you better make it count. Most business owners believe that business value is determined during the liquidity event. Unfortunately, most business owners are wrong. Your enterprise value is a direct result of the depth and quality of your preparation. Who are we and how do we know? We're the 9-figure exit guys. We said no to a 7-figure offer. 2 years later, we said yes to a 9-figure offer. Despite having the same people, the same company, the same services, we increased our business value 10 times. How did we do this? We spent millions of dollars and years of time to uncover strategies that level the playing field. The end result is the 12-week Deep Wealth Experience. We've created a proprietary solution that is relentless, resilient, and gets results. Learn how to master the art and science of a liquidity event. We've leveraged the same strategies that took us from 7 figures to 9 figures. The Deep Wealth Experience levels the playing field so you can dominate and win. Book your free call today to find out if you have what it takes for the Deep Wealth Experience. Visit www.deepwealth.com/success to book your free call.
Welcome to episode 47 of the Sell My Business podcast. Colette Streicher has dedicated her life to researching the quickest and most effective ways to leverage the human mind for success and joy. In 2013, Colette discovered a unique approach that revolutionizes the field of psychology and peak performance called the Make Anything Possible MAP method. As the founder of the MAP Coaching Institute and MAP method, Colette brings a unique coaching program that helps everyone make anything possible in their lives. The MAP method includes a proprietary unlearning process that teaches the brain to easily and quickly rewire itself. Colette is the author of the #1 Amazon international best-selling book, Abundance on Demand. For the past 2 decades, Colette has studied the most cutting-edge tools in the field of mental and emotional management and personal growth. As a private coach, Colette is the secret weapon of peak performers, top athletes, CEOs, and business leaders. Colette helps soul-driven entrepreneurs leverage the power of their mind to be happier, make more money, and realize their vision while making the world a better place. Colette, welcome to the Sell My Business podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today. You are a fascinating professional. You have all these degrees behind your name. You're a best-selling author. You work with people to make them more successful, from business people to athletes. But let's start at the beginning. Colette, how did you get to where you got to today? What's the story behind the story?
All right, Jeffrey. First of all, I'm very excited to be here today. So thank you for inviting me. Second, yes, you hear my accent. I am French originally. I was fascinated by the power of the mind. Literally, how do we realize our dreams? How do we succeed in life? So I have always studied that. So I moved to America to become a psychotherapist, to be at the cutting edge, to be able to help people reach their dreams. And I ended up being a success coach, especially after discovering myself a new method and developing it in the field of psychology. It's a method that allows to quickly and gently neutralize the blocks that are mental, emotional blocks to success. So after developing that method, which is called MAP, M-A-P, Make Anything Possible, I began to work with top leaders and business leaders in the world.
Wow. Make anything possible, and rewiring the brain and working with top business leaders and professionals. That's quite the story. So let me ask you something. I know in our community here at Deep Wealth and for the Deep Wealth Experience, a business owner is going to make likely the most important and biggest business decision of his or her life, to sell the business. So I'm wondering though, because people are people, where are some of the common challenges or mistakes that as people we tend to make when making important decisions?
That's a good question. And I would like to quote Ray Dalio, well known for his successes. And he says that really the quality of your life ultimately depends on the quality of your decisions. And that's exactly what you're talking here on Deep Wealth. It's about people about to make really deep decisions and quality decisions. What science actually has found is that we all think that we are making conscious decisions. We would like to believe that. But now science confirmed that the decisions are made in your unconscious mind up to 7 seconds before your conscious mind thinks it has made the decision. So literally, we have discovered that the unconscious mind, with all your programs and beliefs and emotions, are running the show. They are really affecting your decisions. So one of the biggest, I would say, challenges about making decisions is to be aware of what is behind your decision, because we tend to be reactive and tend to make decisions on an emotional basis. And even if you're a very logical person, your unconscious is running the show anyway. If you want, the brain has a system that allows to make decisions really fast at the speed of light so that you can survive on this planet. You need to make so many decisions a day. Jeffrey, do you know that we make 75,000 decisions a day?
Wow, 75,000 decisions a day, every day. Wow.
Yes. And of course, there are big decisions and small decisions, but even the decision to cross the road 2 seconds earlier than you should have might have a dramatic impact on your life. We are constantly making decisions. Therefore, the brain had to find a shortcut. It's using all the old experiences of your life, the beliefs, the events, the whatever has happened in your life, is scanning it at the speed of light, finding patterns and repeating those patterns. So we tend to make always similar decisions, which leads to similar results.
So would that explain why some people are most of the time successful or some people are most of the time failing? Because what you're saying is we make decisions and it's a pattern. And we repeat that pattern just in different situations, but a similar type of thinking. What's going on with that?
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes you have good patterns and good programs, like we call them, but these are just beliefs that are run at the speed of light in your brain. And if you have been born in a situation where your parents were successful, you have trained your brain to think that you can succeed and you have good habits of decision making that are actually unconscious, but they lead you to success, then you are going to repeat success more easily than someone who has been born in a situation where they see lack everywhere, they see failure in their parents' history, they have gone through a few failures themselves that they have accumulated in their mind and their memories. Then the next decisions they are going to make are going to be based on that. And of course, if you're using the same tool of your brain the same way, it's going to give you the same results.
Okay, so if we know that as business owners, we want our business to grow and to thrive and to help people generate more profits and do all of those good things, where do I start? What can I start doing on my side to change my pattern so I'm thinking with a success type of belief that's going to make a difference for myself and all the activities that I get involved in?
Awareness is the first step. Being unaware is the worst case scenario. And unfortunately, in our life, we have not been trained by school or anywhere that this fact is happening, that your brain is running on automatic. The first thing is not to be on automatic anymore, to become more aware. And I would say the first step of awareness is to look back to your life. And I sometimes ask more clients to make a timeline in terms of income, for example, and draw what was happening in their lives. So it could go up and down. I had a client, for example, who had earned more than $1 million and lost it 7 times. So obviously there was a pattern. So the first thing to do is to look at your life objectively. Sometimes it's hard to do by yourself. That's where I come in as a coach, for example, for some business owners. But you want to look at your life and say, okay, what happened in my life? Even you want to go back down to your childhood and what happened in your father's side. and your mother's side in terms of business. For example, I had a client who was a designer of a billionaire here in Houston. And this billionaire family hired him for every one of their houses. The children's houses, the second houses, the third houses, and literally it was his only client. And then suddenly this billionaire decided not to pay him anymore for that house because he didn't like the design. He was about to get into bankruptcy because of that. And what happened is he came to see me and we realized that he was about to get 50 years old, his birthday, 50 years old. Well, that was exactly the age his dad went into a bankruptcy himself. So now we saw the pattern. He was about to repeat his father's experience. And that bankruptcy, he was young at the time, and it has shocked them forever. Every Thanksgiving, they talk about it. It's like they have not recouped from that yet in the family. So you see, there are patterns that we tend to repeat. So it's a good thing to, number one, become aware of your history, the history of your father, and even generational history.
Colette, I have a question because I know there's going to be some listeners that are saying, wait a minute, Colette. It's one thing for this designer's father to have gone bankrupt when he was 50, but this designer couldn't have manufactured that in his life. How possibly could he do that to control this billionaire not to pay him? So without it sounding just off the charts, crazy or nuts, is there some science behind this? What's behind the designer somehow created a situation to mirror what happened in his family with his father? What's going on with the science and the reasoning for that?
That's a good point, but let's look at the fact. When you have a business that is based on one client only, don't you think that consciously, even as a business coach, perhaps you would see that he's in danger?
For sure. In the Deep Wealth Experience with our 9-step roadmap, when we go to step number 4, due diligence, I mean, having one customer would be a no-go decision to have a liquidity event. There's too much risk with the one customer. So absolutely, it's a ticking time bomb waiting to happen.
Yes. And this person was unconscious of it and ran it up to the end, more or less. Of course, he avoided the bankruptcy. We turned it around, but there was a lack of awareness in his way. And it was awareness of his own situation and how he was in danger. And I'm guessing that his dad was doing the same. He was blinded and something happened. He was not aware. There was no advice. He didn't look around. His mind was limited in his ability to observe and get the data that he needed to make good decisions. So this client was making bad decisions, obviously, like his dad has made bad decisions. And we're back to that situation where decisions are at the core of the quality of your life. So now let me give you the example you were asking, I wanted to share with you. It goes further than just one generation and even your parents' generation. I had a client who used to be one of the top athletes in England in tennis. She went to Wimbledon. She won a few times different things at different levels of tennis. And after her career ended, she decided to open another business. And again, she makes a lot of money. But she tells me the story that each time she loses that money. So the first time someone stole it, the second time the partner was horrible, she lost it all. The third time she was about to really have something else going on. We explored and we found out that the grandma of this woman used to live in a place where there was oil. She was in Texas. And she had a lot of money. Unfortunately, this old woman ended up giving it all to the gardener just before passing away. And of course, the entire family was enraged and they were shocked and they felt betrayed. And the parents after that, the children failed in their lives. They struggled. And she was now the grandchild and she was successful. But all the money that she had earned was stolen. And so she was repeating the pattern of the parents and the generational pattern. And once we clear that, she's now extremely successful and she doesn't lose it all anymore. She keeps on the right track. So you see, it can go further than even your parents' generation.
So Colette, that's fascinating. And what's also interesting as you tie it into the deep wealth community, step number 5 of the 9-step roadmap, we call it the winning mindset. And really, when you look at a liquidity event, there's the science side of the liquidity event, the hard facts and the numbers and the calculations and all those things that go into that. But then you have the art side of a liquidity event. And that's much more difficult. It doesn't show up in a spreadsheet. It's not a formula. But the art side of a liquidity event can be the difference of having a deal or no deal, or having a deal that gets top dollar for your business or one that doesn't. And so I'm fascinated to hear about how the mindset and what you're doing with your clients and how you're coaching them of how to have the right mindset to get you into a pattern of success. So I'm wondering, what would you do if you were working with a business owner who said, Colette, I want to have a liquidity event. I'm going to be working with Deep Wealth. They're going to be helping me prepare for that. But on the mindset side, let's do a deep dive and get me prepared to have the right mindset for a liquidity event. What would happen in that scenario?
We would explore the beliefs that this person has around the event, because your beliefs are the thoughts that are happening automatically in your unconscious mind. And they are affecting, as we said, every decision you make. So the core of the whole thing would be, okay, tell me, what beliefs do you have about it? And it could be, oh, I'm not sure it's going to work. I've never done it before. We would explore the unconscious beliefs, and there are methods to bring them up. And once we bring up an unconscious belief and make it conscious, then we can use what, I call MAP to clear and neutralize that thought, so that once a thought is neutralized, it doesn't have any emotion attached to it. And therefore, it loses its power to motivate behavior. It's like the thought then gets dormant. And it's not that it disappears, but it has no impact on your life and on your decision making.
Many business owners have this belief, maybe I'm just not good enough, or maybe I don't deserve that, or perhaps I'm charging too much when actually they're charging too little, because they're just afraid to really say, hey, I do a world-class job and I deserve this. I'm incredible at what I do. And because of that, I should be at the top of the top.
Yes, you're right, actually. Absolutely. So we would, for example, take the fear of being rejected or failing in that process, or that the person wouldn't buy because the price would be too high and they would feel, like a failure. And all those fears, we would take them one at a time and neutralize them. And then the person can think clearly. It's like when the thought is neutralized, it's just a thought. It's literally like any thought. And in that case, it doesn't impact your behavior. And you can think new thoughts now. It gives you the freedom to think positive thoughts instead of the mind being stuck and glued to certain beliefs. Suddenly, you have the freedom to think better thoughts. And with better thoughts, you have the freedom to ask for what you deserve. I had a client who was very high in real estate, but she had a hard time sometimes to ask for the big prices. And we clear that. And after that, she had no problem at all. So you can heal a lot of things and allow success by rewiring your brain and thinking better thoughts.
So Colette, I believe what I'm hearing is our inner thoughts, that's what creates our outer world. Our expectations, our beliefs, the patterns that we do all around that ultimately will manifest itself in the physical reality coming from just our inner thoughts. We were talking about this in a number of conversations, that the science is now catching up, that science and religion are almost trading places here. So science is now supporting what religion has said for eons, and religion is saying now what science is saying. What's going on with that?
Yes. Let's go back perhaps to a very well-known book that your audience have read, Think and Grow Rich.
One of my favorites. Yes, Napoleon Hill. Absolutely. The Bible for most entrepreneurs and business owners.
Yes, and it goes back to that. Napoleon Hill had really the clarity to define and express at the time that everything is based on how we think. And thoughts are actually vibrations, they are energies, and they affect the quantum field. So, yes, we can go into a quantum field theory discussion. We can explain that everything is energy, and this is not woo woo, this is ultimate, latest science. Everything is energy, even your thoughts, because when you fire neurons, it's an electromagnetic event in your brain. And we know it. There is QEEGs, there is electroencephalograms that show that the brain is sending waves, and brain waves are well known. So it's not very strange. It's scientifically based. So when you think a thought, it affects the quantum field. And the quantum field is connected to everything around you. So yes, you can go deeper and study the impact of your thoughts on your world.
It's incredible. We're now talking about quantum physics and the quantum field and taking that back to everyday life and business. Let's take that a step further, though, because I know in your work and in your research, one of the things that's been suggested is Napoleon Hill did a lot of things to get this kind of thinking out there. That said, though, Napoleon Hill's method is really hard and tedious and slow work. There's a better way, not a magic bullet per se, that it just happens, but there's a science of doing things that you can manifest the results without quite the effort and hard work. Can you talk to us more about that?
Yes, and this is really the heart of the matter for me. It's why my method is called Make Anything Possible, because we use the method to rewire the brain so that we can think better thoughts so much faster and easier. For example, it might just take minutes instead of hours and hours. We can measure the minute by minute, really, the progress and the neutralization of a thought. So once we have a tool that is so fast and gentle and effective, then we can master our mind. And once we master our mind, we master our world, literally. So that's why it's getting easier. It's because we have the latest tools. Does that make sense?
It does. So what I'm hearing you say is it's like anything else in your business. When you have the right tools, you can do things quicker. You can do things faster. It can lead to better results for you. And so perhaps we need to start looking at our mind, of having the right tools to support our mind, which in turn supports our life. And it's a different way of thinking about that, but I really like that. Now, I know, Colette, in a liquidity event, the whole heart of the liquidity event for us at Deep Wealth is preparation. And you prepare well in advance. You save your health, you save your time, you save your money. All that said, though, with all that preparation, it can still be stressful. So as a business owner is going through a liquidity event and that stress is now pouring in, and you've minimized it to a great degree with our system, with a 9-step roadmap, but you're still going to be going through some kind of stress or a stressful situation. How do you deal with that as a coach for successful business people? Are there some tools or tips that you can share with us that our audience can begin to deploy right away for stressful situations?
Yes, stress is very important to manage because stress affects your brain again and your thinking pattern, and it reduces dramatically your ability to think. And it is a day-to-day event. You're not just going for a retreat or you go to Cancun for a week. Yes, it can release a level of stress, but you want to learn how to manage your stress on a moment-by-moment basis, I would say. But at least, very importantly, in the morning. You want to begin your morning, your day, on the right foot if you want. So I would advise a type of meditation. Now, meditation has become very popular in sports, with Olympic athletes, with leaders. You hear about it anywhere, even in the football players here in America. Some of them are meditating. So what is meditation? Mainly, it's about focusing your attention on something neutral, because how you feel and how you think depends on what you focus on. So let's say you focus on something stressful, you're going to be stressed. But if you focus on something as simple as the sound of a wave or a nice little music or something very simple, the sound of the air conditioning, that's even more simple. So you look and focus your mind on something very simple that doesn't bring any thoughts. It doesn't stimulate your thoughts. And you learn to meditate. There is many ways I teach my clients, and you want to do that the first thing in the morning. 10, 15 minutes, even before you go out of bed. Sometimes I am the type of meditating in my bed to show you that you have to be crossing your legs somewhere and be in an uncomfortable position. You want to be in a comfortable position. It's good to sit so you don't fall asleep again. And just relax and focus on your breathing, for example. That's one of the simplest and powerful ways. So learning to meditate, begin the day that way, it will set up your day. You will notice a difference. You will be less reactive because you have emptied the bucket. Your brain and your ability to sustain stress is like having a bucket. And you want to empty the bucket in the morning, make sure that it's cleaned up so that during the day when there is a little bit of stress, it can accumulate, but it doesn't overflow.
So you're saying first thing in the morning when you wake, perhaps a 10, 15, 20-minute meditation just to help you relax and perhaps get you into what some people call a flow or state, and then build off of that throughout the rest of the day to go at it more relaxed and more in tune in terms of what's going on, both mentally as well as externally. Would that be correct?
Yes, that would be correct. And with MAP, we have actually what's called MAP on the go. It is an app that our clients learn, and they can give themselves an instruction to their own brain. We have trained their brain to be able to release the stress on the go. So there are other tools that I personally practice in my world with my clients, but finding a way to maintain your feeling good all along the day is also fundamental. I love the simplicity of appreciation, for example. You can literally include appreciation in your life. When you are appreciative, that means actually in the brain level, you are in a coherent state. You are in the most coherent state. The Heart Math Institute has studied the connection between the brain and the heart. And when you are in the state of gratitude and appreciation, you're in the ideal state of health and of brain, and for your brain and your thinking process. So I also ask my clients to introduce in their lives appreciation on a daily basis, beginning with perhaps 3 to 5 times a day, associating the appreciation moment with specific moments of the day, creating micro habits, if you want. So every time I enter my house, every time I get in my house, every time I get in the car, every time I get out of the car, you see, I have associated those actions with appreciation. And that allows me to stay in flow, like you were saying. The flow state is fundamental to stay in flow all day long.
And, for our community, what's interesting, and I know some of you who are listening, you're very analytical and you're factual. And it's okay, Jeffrey, if it's not in a spreadsheet or it doesn't show up on the calculator, it doesn't exist. But I'm going to share a personal story, 2 personal stories I'm going to share that really supports what Colette is talking about and what she's dedicated her life's work towards. And the first story is this. You all know the Deep Wealth story. I had the proverbial knock at the door and I had a 7-figure offer. Now, for most people, 7 figures, wow, that's terrific. Let me say yes and right off into the sunset with a 7-figure offer. But Colette, as you know, that it didn't feel right. There's nothing scientific behind that. There's no facts behind that. It was a gut feeling. And thank goodness I was tuned in at that time to my gut. And I simply said, no, doesn't feel right. And that began the whole journey of what eventually led to my 9-figure exit. And then what led to Deep Wealth itself. And so there's the art side of it. And Colette, you're putting the science now behind that of why that's happening. Earlier, you were saying that our subconscious knows the decision 7 seconds before we're aware of it. And perhaps that's what was going on with me at that point in time. But for our listeners out there, you do it all the time. You probably just don't recognize it, where it doesn't feel right. Or let me sleep on that. Let me see where I'm going to wake up and how I'm feeling about that. Or if you're in sales, that people buy on emotions first and they justify it with logic later. So for all our listeners who are saying, I don't know, this is sounding really out there, it isn't. The science is supporting this and you're doing it likely yourselves in your everyday lives and just aren't realizing it. So this is powerful insights and tools that you're sharing with us, Colette.
Yes, and you're talking specifically about intuition. So I would say that after the meditation, that means when your mind is quiet, your ego mind, the one that has been conditioned, you quiet that part of you. There is another wisdom behind it. And that's when you have access to your intuition and you develop the intuition. There is a lot of research in very big universities in the US that study intuition, and it is proven. So there is a part of us that knows everything because it's connected to what we call the quantum field of information, where everything is connected. So there is a part of us that's more than just a conditional and a conditioned brain, but is connected to a higher level of self. And when you get to those levels, you live in flow, you are guided, and you can make miracles in your life.
Colette, I'm going to share a story with you and the listeners that I haven't publicly shared before, because it really goes down to what you're saying and what this is all about. And for all you naysayers out there, listen up, because here you go. This is a story from the trenches. So myself and my two other business partners were going through the liquidity event, and there comes a time in the liquidity event where everything that could go wrong is going wrong. And if it continues this way, it's just going to blow up and it's going to stop. But by this point in time, the amount of effort and money and time that we had put into this, it was substantial. And to walk away from this would have been heartbreaking. And so I will never forget, it was on a phone call. Myself, my two business partners on the call together, we're talking about this. And again, it was just a gut feeling that came to mind. And I said, let's just stop everything that we're thinking, stop everything that we're doing. Let's not have any thought about this. Let's go neutral. Let's take it as what's going to be is going to be. We're going to do our best. That goes without saying. And we'll put whatever time and energy is required. But effectively, we're going to go with the flow, because it feels like we're fighting this upstream. We need to be going downstream. So let's just start going with the flow and see what happens. And so, Colette, what happened within 24 hours of that decision? It's truth is stranger than fiction. That's the only way I can describe it. Things started to click. Momentum picked up again. And then, as we all know the story, the 9-figure exit happened and off we went with that. And so to me at that time, I thought, wow, this was interesting. But I'd love to hear your insights on that and what's behind that.
The experience we have discovered along the years is that when you let go, when you relax, when you stop trying to control the outside world that is uncontrollable, which creates an intense stress in you. When you try to control something that is uncontrollable, you find yourself in despair, in a feeling of powerlessness, unconsciously, and therefore it affects your brain and the way you think, and it affects what you're sending out there in this quantum field. So I think that's the key, is to be able to, in those moments, to let go. That means accept what is. You have done it all. You're going to keep doing it all, but there are things you cannot control. And once you accept that, there is a relief, a relaxation. And I would say scientifically, your brain opens up. And not only your brain, but then what you think. And this quantum field we're talking about, you can be in flow again with what has been planned and created months and months before that.
You are preaching to the choir with that, because we say it a little bit differently at Deep Wealth. We're really saying the same thing. And as business owners, when you think about it, you have one chance with your liquidity event and you really want to make it count. This is it for most business owners. And even if you did start another business down the road, the statistics would say otherwise, that the likelihood of that becoming successful, it's not in your favor. But you've done it. You've beat the odds, and now you want to make the most of it. And so when you think of it from that side of things, you want every possible tool in your toolbox as you head into your liquidity event. And that's partly preparation with the facts and the data and all the records and all those other things. But the other big part of the preparation is your mindset, your inner game, which is going to affect your outer game. And that's really what Colette is talking all about. And in the Deep Wealth experience, we have the power of a mastermind group where you're going through the experience with other successful business owners who are not your competitors. They're in different industries. You have all kinds of wonderful opportunities to network with each other. In my experience, the power of coaching. Everybody needs a coach. And as business owners in particular, we need a coach that we can speak to about things no one else would either understand or it simply isn't appropriate to talk about on the business side of things. Here we have a world-class coach on the podcast with us, working with athletes, working with business owners, successful business people, just doing some incredible things. So Colette, what should someone be doing to begin this process of changing their inner thinking to make better decisions that will ultimately affect every area of their life?
Perhaps if it's a first step is to read some books. If you want to read, of course, Think and Grow Rich, just to get a little bit your feet wet on that. I have my book, which is called Abundance on Demand. And it's the story of me and my discovery of the MAP method. That could be an interesting step. But Jeffrey, really what I think would be a great step is to come back to you and your program. And then in your program, there might be in the future help in this domain together. So we don't know yet, but if you're interested, that could be perhaps a first step is to contact Jeffrey and say, hey, what can we do? So we can do something about it if there is some interest out there. That's what I would say.
Wow. So here we are in real time. You're hearing Colette and myself. We're changing our beliefs and our patterns of how we're thinking, and we're being open and getting into the flow and approaching these things. We're both smiling. You can't see us, but we're both smiling and having a lot of fun. Colette, that's a wonderful idea. And for those that haven't had the privilege of reading Colette's book, and I will put all of this information in the show notes, so you don't have to remember any of this. You can just come onto the webpage and there'll be all the links that are there. But Colette's book, she's being very modest. Colette's book is a game changer and is really something that everyone should read, Abundance on Demand, so that you can begin your journey as you think about your liquidity event of really not just leveling the playing field, but tilting the playing field in your favor, because that's where you want it to be. That's what Colette is all about. That's what we're all about on the Deep Wealth experience. And as business owners, what we need to do to help ensure that we become successful. And Colette, I know we're going to start wrapping things up here shortly. As you look across the different business owners that you're coaching, the athletes, people who are successful, because success leaves clues and also failure leaves clues. Knowing what not to do is as important as knowing what to do. And so big picture wise, as you look across your experience and your clients, what would be 2 or 3 typical things that you're seeing successful people do? And then on the flip side, 2 or 3 things that people who aren't successful that they've changed that now has them on that success path?
The one thing that stands out with the people I work with is a humongous desire. A desire for success, a desire for money, a desire for making a difference on this planet, a desire for breaking the records, but a humongous desire. And the ability to do whatever it takes, as long as it takes, to get to where they want to go. They don't give up. And therefore, they are ready to be open-minded. When something is different that I offer, they're open-minded. They try it out. They go for it, full-blown. And that's what makes them successful. The opposite is someone who has low level of desire in life, is not open-minded, stays exactly where they have been for decades. And you have seen people like that. And don't ask questions, don't ask help, and try to do it also all by themselves. That's another thing that I see. Everyone that's successful, they have a coach, like even Tony Robbins. I mean, he's always looking internally and externally for a coach, actually.
So, Colette, as we start to wrap things up here, there's one question every guest on the Sell My Business podcast is asked and answers. And it's a fun question, so no need to worry. The question is this. Think of the film Back to the Future. And in Back to the Future, you have that incredible DeLorean car that will take you back to the future. Colette, I want you to imagine tomorrow morning after you've done your meditation, you're walking outside your door, and in your driveway is that DeLorean car. And you go into that DeLorean car and you can go back to any point in your life. Perhaps it's Colette when she's a young girl, or maybe you're now a young woman or a teenager or an adult. It could be any point in your life. What would you be telling your younger self of lessons learned or life wisdom, or do this or don't do that? It's whatever you would like. What would that be?
I would say you did it. I would encourage, no worries, you're on the right path. Because all my life, I felt a little bit off the track. Like in France, you're successful when you're in the track. You stay in, you are hired in a business, you get a job, you stay there for the rest of your life, etc. I was always out of the track, like on the sideway, and studying and observing and being curious and exploring and even moving to America to be on the cutting edge. And all the while, my family was saying, what is she doing? Why is she going to school another 7 years? Why is she doing that at that age? And I didn't know where it would lead, but it led to a revolution in the field of psychology, MAP. This method is a transformational method that is an innovation, that's for sure, and led to a lot of joy and success and happiness and helping many people on this planet. So I would say kudos, keep going. When you don't even think or know where you're going, if there is a desire inside of you, a guidance, keep going. There is a destination that you might not be aware of. But at the end, it just turns out really well.
Colette, that's a wonderful story. And what I really appreciate about that is you're not telling yourself anything specific of doing or not doing. You're embracing and accepting who you are today and where you are. And you're acknowledging that and just giving encouragement, just keep on going. I love that. So Colette, as we begin to wrap up the podcast now, my final question for you, and I will put this in the show notes for everybody. And I know you are a world-class thought leader, business coach. You're successful in what you're doing. Your private practice is full up. But at the same time, you've developed a successful and vibrant community of coaches that you've personally trained, as well as people who are taking that coaching. So if somebody wanted to get in touch with one of your coaches that you've personally trained and learn more about your system and what you're doing, where can someone online go to do that?
Yes, they could go to the website MAP Coaching Institute and look for the practitioners. Now, the MAP Coaching Institute trains coaches and therapists that specialize in different areas of life. It's not just for success coaching. This is my specialty. There are a few other coaches who do that. And so you can find the coaches there and find the ones that resonate with you.
That's terrific. Well, Colette, I am so grateful for your time and your input and your wisdom today. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Sell My Business podcast.
Oh, you're welcome, Jeffrey. It was really fun.
Thank you. And please stay healthy and safe.
Yes, you too. Bye for now.